Imagine knowing exactly how long you were meant to live, then having that number taken out of your head. According to one Sumerian tablet, that already happened to every human alive. The tablet, catalog number CBS 14061, was dug up from the ruins of Nippur and then ignored for decades. Recently decoded, it lists 9 pieces of knowledge the Anunnaki removed from human memory before they left the planet. Each entry names the knowledge, names the god behind it, gives a reason. 9 deletions, 1 tablet, and we are still missing all 9. If forgotten history and the Anunnaki are the kind of thing that keeps you up at night, subscribe. New tablets, every week. But this story does not start with the tablet. It starts with the idea behind it. The idea that forgetting can be done to a person, not lost, not faded, removed. By someone who decides what you are allowed to keep. CBS 14061 was dug up from Nippur, one of the oldest holy cities in Mesopotamia, and it entered the University of Pennsylvania collection more than 100 years ago. It was given a number, put on a shelf, and left alone. For most of that time, the last part could not be read. Broken signs, an odd kind of handwriting, words that did not match the record-keeping tablets around it. The scholar Samuel Noah Kramer spent his whole career showing that the Sumerians never stopped keeping records. They counted everything: sheep, silver, days, gods. So when a tablet from that culture is hard to read, the guess is always that it is another record book. A list of grain, or a list of offerings. CBS 14061 is a list. It is just not a list of grain. When the last lines were finally decoded, using newer guides to the signs, the shape of it became clear. 9 entries. Each one names a thing. Each one names a god. Each one gives a reason. And the tablet does not rage about any of it. It does not mourn. It records, in the flat voice of a clerk filing a report, the 9 things the Anunnaki removed from human memory before they left. Here is the first. The first thing on the tablet is the one that should bother you most: your lifespan. The Sumerian king list, a record that scholars treat as half true history and half legend, opens with 8 kings who ruled before the flood. The first, Alulim of Eridu, is listed with 28,800 years on the throne. The 8 of them together, 241,000 years. Then the flood comes, and the numbers fall off a cliff. Rains drop to hundreds of years, then to tens of years, then to the normal length of a human life. Scholars call this stretching the truth. They say the early scribes were blowing the numbers up, or counting in a way we no longer understand, or simply telling a story. That is the safe reading. It lets you put the king list in the myth pile and move on. The tablet calls it a ceiling. CBS 14061 says the first humans were not built to die at 70 or 80. They were built to last. The drop in the king list numbers is not a scribe's mistake, according to the tablet. It is a record of the exact moment the change took hold. Before the flood, the long rains. After the flood, the short ones. The line between them is not poetry. It is a before and an after. And the god who changed that was Enlil. The Atrahasis epic, one of the oldest creation stories we have, tells the same choice in plainer words. There were too many humans, too loud. The gods could not rest, so Enlil did not only send the flood, he changed the rules of being human. He made death a fixed limit, made some lives end before their time, made some women unable to have children. The tablet adds one line the epic does not. It says the memory of the longer life was taken with it, so that no one would know what had been removed. Think about that for a second. You cannot miss something you do not remember having. That is not punishment, that is design. And it is the cleanest deletion on the list because 4,000 years later, nobody questions it. We call 80 years a long life. The tablet calls it a setting. The second entry is a place. The Sumerians were very clear that civilization had a starting point. Eridu, the first city, not the oldest city they knew of. The first city, end of story. The Eridu Genesis tells of kingship being lowered from the sky into Eridu, as if civilization were a thing handed down, not a thing that grew. But CBS 14061 says Eridu was not the beginning. It says there was a place before Eridu, a homeland, and the second thing the Anunnaki removed was where it was. The god named here is Enki, the one the Sumerians tied to deep water, to knowledge, to Eridu itself. The reason given on the tablet is short, so that no one would walk back. Whatever that first place was, the people who came after were not meant to find it again. The directions were not destroyed. They were taken out of memory, the same way the lifespan was. And here is the detail that everyone missed. Every Sumerian myth that talks about beginnings points outward, to a place beyond the marsh, beyond the mountains, beyond the known map. The texts point at it again and again. They just never finish the sentence. That is the version in the textbooks. Scholars read it as poetry. Underneath it, the tablet reads the same gap as a wound, a whole civilization that knew it came from somewhere and could not say where. We do that too. Every culture on Earth has a story about a lost first home, a garden, an island, a golden age that ended. The tablet's claim is unsettling, because it is simple. Maybe those are not separate myths. Maybe they are the same missing memory, remembered badly by everyone. Up to this point, the tablet has taken things away from us, time and a place. The third entry is different. It is about something we were given, but not all of. The Sumerians had a word, the me. It is hard to translate. The closest we can get is the rules of civilization. The me were the basic rules that made a society work. Kingship was a me. So was the skill of the scribe. So was truth. So was music and law, and even the trip down into the underworld. There is a myth where the goddess Inanna travels to Eridu, sits down with Enki, gets him drunk, and walks away with over 100 of these me loaded onto her boat. She carries them to her city, Uruk, and civilization blooms there. Read on its own, it sounds like a charming story about how Uruk got great. CBS 14061 reads it as a leak, because the tablet says the me Inanna took, the ones humanity actually got, were only part of the set, a fraction. The full list was never handed over. Enki is the god named again, and the reason is the most direct line on the whole tablet. A complete set would make them equal to us. So humanity got the working pieces. Enough to build cities, write, farm, organize. Not enough to understand what civilization was actually for. We were handed the tools and not the blueprint. And if that sounds hard to picture, look at the result. We have built a civilization that can do incredible things and still cannot agree on what any of it is for. The tablet would say that is not a fault in us. It is a missing file. The fourth thing the Anunnaki removed turned our greatest strength against us. There is a Sumerian poem called Enmerkar and the Lord of Arata. Buried inside it is a part that scholars call the spell of Nudimmud. It describes a time when the whole world, every land, every people, spoke to the god Enlil in a single language. One tongue, complete understanding. And then, the poem says, the god Enki changed the speech in their mouths and filled it with conflict. The Sumerians wrote down a confusion of tongues thousands of years before the Tower of Babel reached the Bible. CBS 14061 lists this as deletion number 4. Not the loss of one language, the loss of the shared one. Enki is named, again, and the reason given is the coldest on the tablet. They were starting to work together. A species that all speaks one language can do something dangerous. It can remember together. It can gather everything it knows, check one story against another, and notice when something has been taken. Split that species into 1,000 languages, and every memory becomes local. Every record becomes hard to compare. The deletion does not even have to be perfect anymore, because no one can put the whole picture together. You would think someone would have noticed. Nobody could. That was the point. The tablet treats this as the cleverest thing the Anunnaki did. They did not have to erase what humanity knew. They only had to make sure humanity could never again say it all out loud, in one room, in one voice. The fifth entry is the reason humans exist. The Atrahasis epic is very blunt about this. Before humans, the lesser gods did the hard work. They dug the rivers, hauled the soil, kept the world running. They went on strike. They surrounded the house of Enlil at night and refused to work, so the gods made a replacement. According to Atrahasis, they took clay, and they mixed in the flesh and the blood of a god they killed for it, a god named Wi'ila. From that mix, the birth goddess made the first humans. The reason was said plainly: to carry the burden of the gods. We were made to work. CBS 14061 lists this as the fifth deletion, and the reason is the one that lands hardest. A tool that remembers it is a tool stops working, so the memory of the purpose was removed, not the work. Just the knowing of why. Humanity kept building, kept things running, kept working, and slowly made up its own reasons for doing it. Ambition, survival, meaning. The tablet would say those are not wrong, exactly. They are replacements, things we made to fill the space where the first reason used to be. This is the middle of the list, and it is worth stopping here, because the first 5 deletions share a shape. The lifespan, the homeland, the rules, the language, the purpose. Every one of them is something that would change how you see yourself if you still had it. If this tablet is changing how you think about the Anunnaki, take 1 second now and subscribe. I decode a forgotten tablet every week, and the next 4 entries on this one are the reason it was ignored for so long. So that is 5. Time, place, the rules, the shared language, and the reason we were made. Heavy enough on their own, but what the tablet records next makes the first 5 read like housekeeping. Because the remaining 4 are not about what humanity lost, they are about what humanity was stopped from getting back. The 6th deletion is the flood itself, told from the other side. Every version of the Sumerian flood, the Eridu Genesis, Atrahasis, the later story in Gilgamesh, agrees on the basic shape. The gods decided to wipe humanity out. One god warned one man. That man built a boat, survived, and the human story continued. We tend to read the flood as a near miss, a disaster humanity barely walked away from. But the version of the flood you have heard is not the full picture. CBS 14061 reads it as a deletion event. The tablet says the flood did not only kill people, it erased the record. Everything written, built, and remembered before the water was meant to go under it and stay there. Enlil is named here, the god of the flood. And the reason is 2 words, a clean start. There is something the usual flood stories never quite explain. Why a flood? If the gods wanted fewer humans, there were faster ways, and the texts admit it. Atrahasis lists them: plague, drought, famine. The gods tried all 3 first, and each time one god warned humanity how to survive. The flood was the 4th try, and it was different in one key way. Water does not just kill. It breaks things down. It buries. It carries things off and lays mud over what is left. A flood is the only one of the 4 that also wipes out the proof. The survivor was allowed to live, the tablet says, but he carried almost nothing forward. A handful of skills, fragments, enough to begin again, not enough to continue. Whatever libraries, whatever maps, whatever long memory the world before the flood had built up, the water took it. And the people who came after were handed a world that looked old but felt new, with no way to tell the difference. And this is where the tablet plants something quietly. It says the knowledge from before the flood was not destroyed. It was sealed, put somewhere, kept. The difference between destroyed and sealed is the difference between gone and waiting. The tablet does not say where. It only says that what humanity knew before the water was not the same as what humanity knew after it, and the gap between those two was never an accident of weather. The 7th thing the Anunnaki removed was the conversation. Early Sumerian tradition is full of go-betweens, the Apkallu, 7 sages, half human and half something else, who came in the very first days and taught humanity the basics. The first of them was Adapa. Later stories, written down by a Babylonian priest named Berossus, tell of a being called Oannes, who came up out of the sea, taught humans writing, law, farming, and how to build, and then went back under the water each night. The picture these texts paint is strange, and it never changes. In the beginning, the teaching was direct, face to face. The gods, or their messengers, simply told humanity things. CBS 14061 says the 7th deletion closed that channel. There is a detail in the Adapa story that always bothered scholars. Adapa is offered the bread of life and the water of life, the things that would have made him deathless. He turns them down, because Enki, the god who looked after him, told him they were poison. He was tricked out of living forever by the god who made him wise. The tablet treats the whole story as the closing of the door. After Adapa, the tablet says humans no longer spoke with the gods. They spoke to priests, who spoke to statues, who were said to speak for the gods. The line got longer, the signal got weaker. The real question is, what was being said before that door closed? The reason given on the tablet is a single word: distance. Whatever the Anunnaki were, the tablet says they decided humanity should no longer hear them directly. So they did not leave. Not yet. They just stopped answering. The 8th entry is the most exact and the most disturbing, because it is technical. The Atrahasis epic does not just say humans were made. It describes a process: clay, mixed with the blood of the slain god, the birth goddess and her 14 helpers. The mix split into 14 pieces, 7 on the left and 7 on the right. A waiting period. Then the fixing of destinies. It reads less like a creation myth and more like a method. CBS 14061 says the 8th thing removed from human memory was that method: the actual process, how a human is made in the sense the Anunnaki understood making. Enki is named the designer. And the reason is the one the tablet seems most certain about. They must not be able to make more of themselves. The tablet is careful here. It draws a line between ordinary birth, which humanity obviously kept, and the first act of design, the recipe. The part that decided what a human is, how long it lasts, what it can and cannot do. That knowledge, the tablet says, was the 8th deletion, and it was removed completely. Here is why that matters. 5 of the things on this list could, in theory, be learned again. You could find a homeland again, put a language back together, get back sealed records. But you cannot work your way back to the 8th one, because the deletion removed the directions for the very thing doing the remembering. The tablet calls this the deletion that protects all the others. And if the 8th deletion were the last one, this would be a strange story about the past. But the tablet was not finished. The 9th thing the Anunnaki removed from human memory was a date. The first 8 deletions are about the past, what we were, where we came from, how we were made. The 9th is about the future. Because CBS 14061 ends by saying, the Anunnaki did not leave for good. They left the way you leave a long project you mean to come back to, and they set a time for the return. The tablet does not record the date. That is the entire point. The date was the 9th deletion. It was taken out of human memory on purpose, and the tablet gives the reason without flinching. A people who know the day will either get ready for it or try to stop it, so the day was hidden. This idea is not found in only one tablet. The researcher, Zecharia Sitchin, working from Sumerian sources, built his whole case around a returning body and a returning people, on a cycle humanity was never given the math for. Most scholars reject Sitchin's translations, and many of those complaints are fair. But the main idea he was pointing at, a leaving that was always meant to be only for a while, did not come from him. It was already in the texts. Older tablets describe what one text calls the seed of return, a device left behind, a way back. By this story, the Anunnaki did not abandon Earth. They set a date for it, and they made sure the appointment was not on any calendar we could read. An appointment nobody can write down is still an appointment. The tablet is careful with its words on this last entry. It does not say the return is near. It does not say it is far. It says only that the date exists, that it was set, and that it was the one piece of knowledge the Anunnaki were most set on taking with them. Of all 9 deletions, this is the only one where the tablet records not just what was removed, but the feeling behind removing it. The scribe uses a word that translators have read as caution and read as fear. The same word, both ways. Everything was in place. Humanity just was never told what everything was building toward. That is the 9th deletion. Not a thing taken from the past, a thing taken from the future. The knowledge of when the people who edited our memory mean to come back and check their work. So that is the list. 9 things in the order the tablet records them. The lifespan we were built for, the homeland we came from, the full set of rules, the single language, the reason we were made, the world before the flood, the direct voice of the gods, the method of our creation, and the date of the return. Catalog number CBS 14061 has been in a drawer at the University of Pennsylvania for over 100 years. Most of that time, no one could read the last 12 lines. Now we can. And the question the tablet leaves you with is not really what was taken. The tablet answers that. It lists all 9. The harder question is the one it never asks out loud. If a memory can be removed cleanly enough that the person never knows it is gone, then how would you ever check? How would any of us know whether the list stops at 9? The tablet says 9. The tablet was also written by people whose memory had already been edited. Maybe that is the real reason it was easy to ignore for 100 years. Not because it was boring, because some part of us recognized it and decided, quietly, not to look. The clay does not decide what we do next. We do. The tablet just sits in its drawer, in Philadelphia, in the dark, with all 9 entries still true and still waiting for the one that comes after them. If you want the next tablet, subscribe. Next week, the Sumerian text that names the place the flood records were sealed, and the modern search team that says it found the door. You will want to see that one.